One of the apps that I love to use in my classroom is called Nearpod. Nearpod is this app that has the blue circle in it with the diamond shape in the middle. And when I click on it, you can see that a bunch of different tabs come up, and this is what it looks like from the teacher's point of view. When I click on My Library, that will take me to the part of Nearpod where I can create my lessons and start presentations. We're going to start with this Oregon Trail simulation. This is one that we did recently in class, and the kids absolutely loved it. It keeps them engaged, it keeps them focused, and they really follow along with the lesson more than they would otherwise. So when I click on it, I can click Live Lesson, which is what the students would see in the classroom. And when I click Live Lesson, this PIN number comes up. When students get into the Nearpod app, they're asked to enter a PIN. They don't get to go to a home page like you saw on mine. So this is the PIN they would enter, and then they would be able to get linked to the slide that I have up here right now. And this is a teacher-paced lesson. So what that means is that the students sitting at their desks will have the iPad in front of them, and it will show this screen, but they will not be able to move throughout the different screens. Only I can do that. I can also create it where it is student paced, so that if I wanted to create a lesson where students were going through it on their own pacing, I could do that as well. But this was one that I went through on my pacing, and so I could click the next button, and on their screen the slide would go to the next one, and we would continue class that way, and we would go through different steps. And the biggest thing of this, number one, I like using this because it keeps their attention in class. Students were more engaged when we did this lesson. They enjoyed having the iPad there with their groups, and they were engaged more so than if I had taught this from the front of the class. The second reason I did this is there are a couple of cool features on the app. One, this is one where I could add in more than one. I could add in multiple pictures at one time. So here you can see I have 7 pictures, and the students were supposed to go through the general store prices and pick out what they wanted to purchase for their wagon. This part was self-paced, so once I got to this screen, the students could click on the different numbers, and they could go through and pick what they needed to without me having to go through them, and then they had an example for them to follow. So they could go through these, and the groups took some time going through, okay, what does each thing cost? Why do we think we're going to need it? All of that fun stuff. Once they finished with that, I was able to switch the screen, and we would get started with our Oregon Trail simulation. The rules came up, and then the Oregon Trail game board came up along. Here's another section where the students got to see what the different sheets looked like that they were going to have to fill out. Once we started the game, this was the really cool part. This is a spot where the kids would roll their dice at their own seat. So each group had a dice that they would roll. They would roll it, and instead of having to tell me what number each group rolled, because we had 6 groups, they were able to tell me virtually. So on their iPads, the screen would pop up, and it would give them a choice to enter A, B, C, D, E, or F. And A would be 1, B was 2, C was 3, D 4, E 5, F 6. And so once they enter that in on my screen, we're not going to see it now because the students aren't connected to it, but on my screen it would show me group 1, they rolled a 5. Group 4, they rolled a 2, and so on and so forth. And that way we didn't have to stop anything in the lesson. I had it right here on my teacher device, and we can continue the game from there. And I moved the game pieces on the big smartboard. So if you saw that slide earlier where it had the game board, we had that up on the big smartboard. So here we had this up on the big smartboard. I had the kids moving their pieces, rolling the dice. Everything was done electronically, and the kids were super engaged. It's a great app. It's something that I could even send home with the kids. I could send them a link, and they could go through a student-paced presentation that I make. So this is a great app that I enjoyed using in my classroom.